Hello, I'm Isaac Heath Martinez, and welcome to Isaac's Haunted Beer. Alright, today we're going to talk about Anaconda. This film was released in April of 1997, but it feels like a summer film. This is one of those horror movies that really complements the hot summer months because it takes place on the Amazon and you can feel the heat. Now, when this movie first came out and I saw the commercials for it, I didn't want to see it. I thought it looked bad and not in a good bad way. Like, I was like, oh, pass. So my friend went to go see it. He asked if I'd go and I said no. And he came back from the theater raving about how wonderful it was and tried to convince me that I would enjoy it, and I don't know why, I just didn't believe him. And he kept hounding me. I needed to see this movie, and I kept saying no. And he was so convinced that I was doing myself a disservice by not seeing this movie. His pitch was this. He's like, if I pay for your ticket and take you to see this movie, will you watch it? Because I'm really convinced you're going to love it. Who am I to say no to a free movie? So we went, and holy moly, I loved it. And I still love it. Like, every time I revisit it, I fall in love with it all over again. For those of you who haven't seen it, and I'm guessing that you've all seen it, it's a movie about a documentary film crew on a boat in the Amazon that's going to make a film about this lost tribe, and then their boat gets taken over. They become hostages to this snake hunter who is after a giant anaconda. And this film has, and at the time I don't think it necessarily was treating itself this way, but in retrospect you look at it and you go, wow, this film has quite the stellar cast for a weird monster movie. So we have, I just want to go over this cast with you, because you're never going to get these people in a movie ever again together. You have Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, Eric Stoltz, Owen Wilson, very briefly, Dan Trejo. This one's not so famous, but it's famous to me. Kari Wurr, and she's only famous to me because I used to watch the MTV show she was on, Remote Control. Jonathan Hyde, who was not famous to me at the time, but the most recent time I watched it, he's become famous to me because since then, he plays this character named Eldridge Palmer on this TV show called The Strain that I really liked. So he's famous to me now. I'm like, oh my God, that's Eldridge Palmer as a younger man. And Jon Voight, in the role he was born to play. Not only is he terrific in this movie, this is my all-time favorite Jon Voight performance. Okay, and a CGI snake, who is not as bad looking as it could have been. I feel like CGI in the 90s was really iffy. You got your people who could afford to do good CGI, like Steven Spielberg. Jurassic Park looks beautiful even in the year 2018, as it did in 1993. And then you have some other movies that look awful. Most of them look awful. Anaconda's kind of in between. Like, it's not like a terrific looking snake, but it's far from that. And I feel like it's an effect that exists within the context of such a fun movie that it's easy to forgive and just kind of go with it. So, I honestly really know that if you're watching this video, you've already seen Anaconda, and you just want to hear me talk about it. So I'm just going to touch upon a couple of things that I really love about Anaconda. Jon Voight's the villain here, not the snake. The snake is, and I kind of feel this way about a lot of animals in movies, like Jaws and so forth. Like, there's a part of me that doesn't really recognize them as villains, because if I just think of them as not just movies, but just real life, like they're just animals doing animal stuff. They're not like plotting in this like evil, menacing. They don't have agendas. Their agenda is to just live. So when they just like kill you and eat you, that's not their fault. They're just doing animal stuff. So even the snake in Anaconda, it's just like he's just a snake doing snake stuff. The bad guy in this movie is Jon Voight. Jon Voight is the villain, and he plays this part, like you can just clearly see he's having so much fun in this movie. And he is playing it really over the top and really campy. And he's got this accent that is just like amazing. And he has one of the greatest death scenes in movie history. One of my favorite death scenes for a villain is when he gets devoured by the Anaconda. So it's a two-part death scene. First of all, when the snake eats him, the camera suddenly switches from the point of view of inside the snake's body as it's like swallowing him, and you see his body like going up into the body of the snake. Ow, ow, ow. So that's amazing, and that alone would have been like, perfect. No, it's not done. The snake, then he's about to attack somebody else in the film, regurgitates John Voight's body, throws out his whole body, and his body just falls out of the snake's mouth, and his body just boom, it like thumps out, and then boom, kind of like hits the wall or something. Like at that moment, his body, before he actually dies, with his last moment of just life, looks over at, I think it's Jennifer Lopez, and winks at her. You know how bad. Come on. You can't top that. You can, but you can't. I mean, there's so many. It's among the greats. I think it's just like, put that up with your collection of other really memorable death scenes. Because you're going to walk away from this movie, even if you watch the entire movie and don't like it, you're not going to walk away from the movie and like not remember that scene. And what's one of the greatest gifts a movie can give is to create a moment that you never forget. Like, I just think about it all the time. Like, it just randomly be like hanging out with people and be like, remember when John Voight got killed by that snake and he got spit back out? That's it. And the snake itself, when the snake gets killed, this is just me. It kind of reminds me of Jaws 2, the way the shark dies in Jaws 2. Ice Cube is in this film. Now, I'm not a film historian. I'm not an expert. I don't know. Where this is leading is when you make a statement, there's always some smarty pants know-it-all who'll be like, well, actually, yes, there's always someone who knows more than you do. But I've seen a lot of films. It's not like I just started doing this yesterday. And part of the history of horror has led me to believe, I don't know if this is true, that the stereotype is, and it has been for a long time, that black people don't survive horror films. That if you insert a character into a film who is black, they're a victim. And I don't know who was the first to do it, because if I say, well, it's Ice Cube, then some guy will be like, well, actually, well, okay, yeah, name some obscure film I don't know, it's fine. But as far as like a memorable film, like a popular film, the first one I remember was Anaconda. 1997. Ice Cube survives Anaconda. And it was unheard of at the time. So even if there is some obscure movie, I don't know, a lot of people didn't know, it felt like, Ice Cube's toast. He survives. And there's a scene in the film where it looks like he's almost going to die. He doesn't. And to keep that train rolling, that good time feeling, like a year or two later, or a year later, LL Cool J survives Halloween H2O, and then a year after that, he survives Deep Blue Sea. So if you want to be a black guy in a horror film and survive, it helps if you make really cool, popular rap albums first, because then killers and monsters can't touch you because your beats are so dope. You're too fresh. Okay, so when I saw this movie, I was so into it that when the sequel came out in 2004, it's called Anacondas, The Hunt for the Blood Orchid, I was ready to see it. Anaconda is kind of like following like Alien and Aliens. The sequel's like, well, we already had an alien, we should have more than one aliens. So Anacondas was the sequel. Anaconda's The Hunt for the Blood Orchid. That one I didn't need my friend to talk me into going. I was sold, I went, and it sucks, and I'll never see it again. And I mean, if you like it, that's great. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to have, find out that I was wrong, and see it one day and go, oh, actually, it's better than I thought it was. Am I gonna give it a second chance? No. I can't think of the circumstances that surround me going, ooh, anacondas, the hunt for the blood orchid. I remember hating this. Let's give it another shot. It's never going to happen. Roger Ebert, may he rest in peace. This is what I'm going to leave you with, folks. I don't know just how things happen, but things happen that are magical and I love them. Is that Roger Ebert gave Anaconda 3.5 out of 4 stars back in 1997. And I don't know why, that just kind of tickles me. I'm not saying that the man had perfect taste. He obviously loved a lot of stuff that I didn't like and vice versa. He hated a lot of stuff that I love. But it's nice when you just kind of like find that common ground. You're like, you like Anaconda? I like Anaconda. Well done, sir. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. And if you want to keep up with my shenanigans, follow me on Twitter at Isaac'sHauntedBee. Thanks for spending time with me. Bye-bye.